What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome back into Hockey Sense. Great to have you with us as always. Usually drop this every Friday. I think that's the plan this week. Although, full disclosure, I am recording this earlier in the week. I'm off to Detroit. Any listeners out there in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area, hit me up and let me know some good places to go to eat. My daughter's got a soccer tournament, so I'll be out there. It's hard to believe it's September. We got so much to get into here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community, firstcommunity.com. Open up a new account today. They've got great deals, first-time home buyer deals, auto loans. If you're looking to buy a car, no better place to do it than First Community. And nobody supports youth hockey here in St. Louis more than our friends over at First Community, as they support Little Blues. You've got the St. Louis Blues youth hockey going on. They also sponsor the St. Louis Blues alumni, which I did cast my vote. We do have a Blues, not alumni, but Hall of Fame, I should say, St. Louis Blues Hall of Fame. And we do have a Blues Hall of Famer coming on the show here on this edition of Hockey Sense. Mike Liut's going to join me, former Blues goaltender, a longtime agent, represents a number of NHL stars, including Leon Draisaitl, who just signed a massive 8-year contract extension with the Oilers yesterday. We've been talking a lot of Oilers here on this show. Man, I love interacting with all the Oiler fans, all the people out there in Western Canada. Listen, I hope you enjoy the podcast. We get into everything, not just the Blues. It's heavy Blues. This is more of a local podcast in comparison to what we typically do on the Chemistry podcast. So we do focus heavy on the Blues here on this show, but we get into everything. And how do you ignore the Edmonton Oilers right now with everything going on with the offer sheets? It just so happened that it involves St. Louis, and now the contract extension to Leon Draisaitl, a top 5 player in the NHL. Is he top 3? Is he top 2? Is he top 4? What is he? I say top 5. I should give out my top 5. Maybe I'll do that next week. My top 5 rankings. We'll do top 5 defensemen, top 5 players, top 5 goalies. It's interesting, man. I hate putting together those type of lists because even right off the top of my head, I'm like, okay, where are we going here? You obviously have to include Matthews, McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov. The 4 of those need to be included in a top 5 for me, in some order. Whether you want to start with McDavid, I think most people probably would. I would. Who slides in at number 5? Is it Makar? Is it Draisaitl? You got to get a D-man in there probably. And I bet you if you were to ask a lot of general managers around the league right now, if you had one pick to build a franchise around, they're probably starting with Cale Makar. Although, I shouldn't say most. There would be a lot that would be taking Connor McDavid first overall. But still, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. We're going to get into this Draisaitl contract. Very interesting in terms of how it was structured. $112 million total. $104 million of that $112 is in pure signing bonus money. So he's set to make $1 million per year over the 8-year contract extension in base salary. The rest of it is being paid in signing bonus money, which, hey, to a lot of these owners, it's absolutely nothing. I know here in St. Louis, the bonus structure is frowned upon. It's not something they look to do. But I don't think they have such a hard stance on it that it would prevent them from, getting an extension done with a star player. But, who knows? But they've inherited contracts in the past. Ryan O'Reilly's contract comes to mind. Braden Schen's contract comes to mind. Schenn, the contract that he had signed with the Flyers, and O'Reilly, the contract he had signed with the Buffalo Sabres prior to his trade. Both those contracts had significant signing bonus money included in the deal, which the Blues inherited, and subsequently they had to pay it on July 1st of every year. That's a pretty nice payday. So 104 of the 112 being paid in signing bonus money, and the bonus money changes year to year too. See if Mike Liut can break that down. He also represents Mikko Rantanen, who I believe is up for an extension. He's got 1 more year left on his deal. Crosby has 1 year left on his deal. The Crosby situation is the most interesting to me. And listen, Crosby can do whatever the hell he wants to do. And we all know that. I'm not going to sit here and tell Crosby he should go elsewhere. I'm not going to sit here and say that he should stay in Pittsburgh because he owes it to that community. He doesn't owe them anything. He's given them everything. You look at historically how many players, superstar, generational players, stay with one franchise their entire career. You don't see it too often, not to say that it doesn't happen, but Wayne Gretzky played for several teams. Mark Messier played for several teams. You can go down and down the list. You have players like a Brett Hall. He meant as much to St. Louis and the community of St. Louis as Crosby means to the community of Pittsburgh. And so some of you are hearing that right now and be like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. Listen, I'm not saying Brett Hall was as great of a player as Crosby, better goal scorer. You're damn right he was. Brett Hall, one of the top 3, in my opinion, pure goal scorers in the history of the NHL. He's right behind Ovi, in my opinion. Just an electric goal scorer. But in terms of the full package, listen, very few are better than Sidney Crosby. Crosby's now elevated himself to being on the Mount Rushmore of NHL greats all time. But I go back and forth on this because, listen, Pittsburgh, the clock is ticking. Like, you can only continue to go on with a veteran core and then miss the playoffs. Like that's like the worst scenario you could be in, that you could ever find yourself in the NHL, is when you commit money and contracts to aging stars and you miss the playoffs year in and year out. You can't afford to do that. Like, it's difficult to play catch-up, which is, you look at the Blues model right now, where we're going to see how it plays out over the course of the next 5 years, but it is interesting how they have been able to keep their head above water. Now, they missed the playoffs the last 2 years, so if you want to define that as head above water or disagree with that, listen, I'm good with it. But if they were in the Eastern Conference last year, they make the playoffs. They were never really out of it. They never had any significant long losing streak where you felt like they had just completely fallen out. There was one stretch late in the year where maybe you said, okay, they're donezo. They were losing some terrible games to some terrible teams. I mean, they couldn't beat Columbus. They couldn't beat San Jose. They were just losing to non-playoff teams on a consistent basis last year. I want to say they lost a game to Chicago. They had a great comeback victory against Chicago right around Christmas time. That was incredible. Maybe the game of the year, but they should never have been in that hole to begin with against the Chicago Blackhawks. But for Crosby, listen, we all know he means a lot to that community. Listen, he's going to have to make a decision versus lifestyle or comfort or loyalty versus a hockey decision. I think if it's a hockey decision, then you maybe look to go elsewhere and give yourself a chance to be on a competitive team and a chance to win another Stanley Cup. And if it's a lifestyle decision where you are so comfortable and you do not want to walk away from everything you have built up in the market of Pittsburgh, this guy can go anywhere, do whatever he wants. Not to say that he wouldn't be able to do that in another city, because he would. And he'd be able to do that right away, okay? But again, it's the relationships, it's the people you know. Walking away from that for some people can be difficult. People inside the organization, people outside the organization. The comfort that his family has when they come and visit. So anyway, he's going to have to make that decision. I could go either way with it, but I hope that Crosby, I just think it'd be intriguing to go see him play elsewhere. If Pittsburgh's not going to be good, then I don't want to see Crosby finish his career as a Pittsburgh Penguin. As a fan of the game, I don't want to see Crosby just miss the playoffs for the duration of his career. If Pittsburgh all of a sudden is able to contend over the next year or two, then okay, but I don't see that happening. So I'd rather see Crosby go to a team that is in position to win right now and see if he can help them get over the hump or help them continue to win, and see him play with some new and fresh elite players outside of the ones he's played with his entire career. We've been treated to the Letang, Malkin, Crosby trio for so long. Never take that for granted. But you know what? We are approaching that expiration date. It's either going to work or it's not. And if it's not going to work, then I wouldn't mind to see Crosby play somewhere else. Now, with that being said, who knows? Maybe they announce a contract extension in the next week. I was one of these teams, like how they coexist with the league in terms of making sure that they're spreading out these announcements. Thought it was interesting yesterday. I put it out on Twitter that the contract extension between Leon Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers was actually agreed to late last week. But in light of the tragedy to, Jonathan and Matthew Gaudreau, the Oilers elected not to announce the extension until yesterday. And I thought that was a very smart move. It made complete sense. So good on the Oilers. I would imagine the league. Who knows? Maybe they got involved. Maybe they didn't have to get involved. But I don't see a situation where the league would allow Pittsburgh to announce a contract extension with Sidney Crosby on the same day that, like, Toronto announced an extension with Mitch Marner. I'm not saying that's happening. Or on the same day that Leon Draisaitl gets his extension announced. So we got to get out of here because Mike Liut's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. First Community, as always, brings us the Hockey Sense, which you can find on all Apple platforms, including YouTube. So look for it and look for it today. But First Community, man, is, I say, the number one company in St. Louis when it comes to promoting youth hockey and supporting youth hockey. They also support the Blues Hall of Fame, like I mentioned before. How about the back-to-school auto loans? I talked about this last week, man, but I got to talk about it again because summer's over. Everyone's back in school. There's one thing your student might need. That's a car. I'm not there yet with my kids. So if they're away in college, maybe they're just turning 16, maybe they're just getting ready to drive. You don't want to be their personal Uber driver. Like, those days are done. I'm in the midst of that, where you're just constantly just driving them around. Take me here, take me there. I'll be taking advantage of this First Community auto loan. Just a few years. You can buy a new or reliable quality used car. And here's the secret, though. First Community auto loan rates are the same whether you're buying a new or used car. You know that the auto rates are because it's not the case at most places. First Community auto rates the same if it's new or used. So you can get that 60-month rate for under 6%. That's pretty good. FirstCommunity.com. Check that out and check it out today. Four Hands Brewing Company, September 24th. That's the date where the Mango Lemonade, the Cam and Strick podcast hard seltzer back on the shelves. Anywhere you get your Four Hands Brewing Company products, everywhere. But check out those tasting rooms, man. They got the one downtown, 1220 South 8th Street, the one in Kirkwood. I was at the one in Chesterfield for an event a few weeks ago. One of the best places to go as a family or with a group. Like, there's so much space at the one in Chesterfield. Get there and get there today. Check out all the spirits, the hard seltzers, everything else, the year-round beers, the seasonal beers. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Hey, download that app and get it today. And they've got so many deals on there. They call them steals. You can't miss them. All the deals. Some locations have drive-thrus. Never have to get out of your car. Don't sleep on the party supplies. You're having back-to-school parties, Halloween parties around the corner, fall parties, hay rides, pumpkin patch, all that type of stuff, man. Get all your party supplies from Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Plus all the beer, wine, and booze. They've got that walk-in beer cooler. They got everything. And, again, get that app and download it today. Lower those diamonds. Get that special someone something special. That special someone in your life, get them something special. I'll never go anywhere else, man. They've been around for almost 70 years. Lordo's Diamonds, lordosdiamonds.com, 314-432-8008, 314-432-8008, Lordo's Diamonds, lordosdiamonds.com. Right there in the heart of the deal. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy. Let them take care of you. If you got a $500,000 budget or a $500 budget, they've got something for you, and they're going to treat you the same no matter what. Best customer service you'll find anywhere. Lordo's Diamonds, lordos.com. Diamonds, baby. 314 Sports Cards. Devin Sant will not be able to join us this week. He's on assignment, but he's got some great stuff going. They had those packs that they were advertising, like $5 or something like that for 30 cards, for like a stack of 30 cards. It was incredible. They're going to get those Broberg cards. Those will be in very, very soon. Same with the Holloway cards. Hey, appreciate all this people who enjoyed that interview we had on the show last week with Dylan Holloway, by the way. But they've got the Dylan Holloway cards, and they've got a number of individual cards. If you're looking for a Crosby, a McDavid, a Matthews, whatever it is, and whoever it is you're looking for, you can find it, and find it very easily over at 314 Sports Cards. Check out their incredible Instagram account. Message Devin if there's something you're looking for. If you have a prize piece at your in your house, it's been in your possession for forever, and you don't know what to do with it. You want to know what the value is. Take it in there. Let Devin look at it and give you the valuation on the specific piece. Maybe you're looking to sell it, and he might take it off your hands as well. 314 Sports Cards, 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, if you're here local in St. Louis. All right, we're going to step aside. We'll come back with NHL super agent and a longtime NHL goaltender. This guy was really, really good. Mike Liut, always a great conversation. The agent for Leon Draisaitl. We get into that 8-year, $112 million extension. Oiler fans, they're pumped up today. All right, back here on Hockey Sense. Longtime goaltender in the NHL, longtime agent. I mean, not many people can say they have two careers. This guy has been great in not just one, but two. We'll talk to Mike Liut here in just a second. This conversation brought to you by Blue Note Roofing. I'm sure Dave Novak, the owner of Blue Note Roofing, this guy was 100% a fan of Mike Liut back in the day because he's an old school Blues fan, been going to games for a long time. But Blue Note Roofing, man, give them a call today. They do everything. Soffit, fascia, gutters, whatever else you're looking for. Siding, and obviously roofing, man. Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Call today and ask for Dave. What's up, Mike? How are you?
I'm doing well. Just grinding out the last few days of summer, getting ready for training camp. Can't believe it's here already.
I know. Do you make the rounds? Do you talk to your clients before camp? Are you a pump-up guy? Are you like, hey, let's go, let's have a great year? You just kind of leave them alone?
No, not really. I mean, the veteran guys are, they know what they're doing. They are who they are. The younger guys, depending on where they are in their career or stuff, the key is to define yourself as a hockey player. If you're not in the NHL, why are you not in the NHL? What are you going to do to get there? What's the one thing you do that's going to put you there for that team? Where's your foothold? So there's lots of chatter about that. The rest of it is logistics. If they are going to be in the NHL and it's their first go round, where are they going to live? What are they thinking? That kind of thing. But no, it's just getting everybody, sort of all the logistics taken care of as much as anything.
Okay, so I got to ask you this. When you're negotiating an extension like the one you just completed with Leon Draisaitl, historic deal, not the richest in terms of total dollars, but I think in terms of the AAV, right? It's got to be the largest in the history of the game. I'm curious the adrenaline rush you get from finalizing a deal, knowing you have a deal, picking up the phone, calling the player, saying we have a deal, versus playing in a big-time game, Mike, where it's the talk of the town, it's the talk of the league, and you got to be at your best on the ice. Is there any comparison?
It's not even close. It's not even close. Playoffs in the Montreal Forum, compared to this contract, it's not close. These contracts are they start more than a year ago, right? Talking about what the decision is going to be, where you want to be, why you want to be there, the economics, what we can expect at that time, where the game is going, where their team is. By the time you get to actually meeting and talking about the parameters, and you're going to grind it out, it's you kind of where you want to end up, right? So it's more just finding a strategy to get there, and there's arguments back and forth, and sometimes it's just no, and a player isn't going to sign there. He's not in camp, and there is that. But takes the work is in the preparation, particularly in that instance.
Yeah, who'd you negotiate with the most? Because Stan Bowman just got there, so do you wait till he becomes?
It was Stan. We met with Jeff and Stan. Just to start, and on our side, it's myself and Andy Scott, and those are parameter setting. What are you guys thinking? And from our perspective, we're looking at a changing dynamic in hockey, right, and in the economics. And pre-2021, the revenue chased the cap. Hockey-related revenue, which is the basis for establishing the salary cap, was a guess based on the prior year's revenue. It was a guess as to how much it was going to go up, always assuming it would go up, and then adding a 5% growth factor that was in the CBA. And the idea was we're going to create a market so everybody can negotiate into it. And if the players negotiate collectively more than 50% of the revenue, then we'll claw that back. And that's the escrow that they talk about, that they hold money back every year in an escrow account to balance out, reconcile that metric of 50%. Now, the formula in the current CBA, which was an extension, is at that same time in 2020, is the cap will now chase the revenue. So the cap has been set, artificially at 81.5 because in 2021, we didn't know what was going to happen, right? It's like everything associated with COVID. We didn't know, what we know today. And we didn't know if the revenue was going to drop by $1.5 billion and stay there and so forth. So the lag formula is a look back. We're going to take 2 years ago, the revenue 2 years ago, and that's going to set the salary cap. So, it's more of a defined pool that we're negotiating into. Mm-hmm. And that's a fundamental difference in the economics today.
All right, so that makes sense. Now, I'm curious though, if this contract, is this a relatively easy contract to get done? Like, I think everyone expected him to be the highest paid player. Like, are these easier to do versus a guy that is a $4.5 million player where you're maybe trying to squeeze an extra $500,000, extra $1 million here and there, and trying to get an extra year? This one, you knew he was going to get a max deal and become the highest paid player.
The difference here, they're roughly the same, right? Essentially the same. 500, the numbers are just bigger, right? We're larger. The difference here is that you're negotiating on behalf of an elite player, top player in the league. So there's the motivation for the club to sign him is obvious. And when you arrive at that moment where you're unrestricted, right? It's the first time essentially in your hockey career where you get to choose the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's a powerful moment. You get to dictate now. So the player certainly has an advantage going into free agency. He just waits till he gets through the end of his contract. He can talk to any team in the league. And, that has significant value. Where you play is always an important facet of that, right? Like you're not just, give me the most money wherever it is, I don't care, right? That shouldn't come down to that. This is a career, and hockey is unique in this sense that we do have a cap. Baseball doesn't have a cap. So they've got an open format. Basketball has a cap, but there's far fewer players of significance on a basketball team than there is in a hockey team, right? And so if you want to win, like it or not, if you have a cap and you're looking to win, you have to look at where your team is going, what they've spent, and some of the mistakes that they've made. You can't get out of them, right? You trade a player, you're going to retain salary. The money is spent. The money's spent. So it's a deeper analysis once you layer in, I want to win. And there's you just can't argue or stomp your feet. There's no way around that. You have to face that and then make your decisions based on that. And the decision could be, hey, this team's dead. I'm out of here. So, that's the peel the onion back a couple of layers. That's what you're going to find.
You always wonder with like an elite player, and the same thing I would say, Marner maybe in that category because he's in a loud market. You got Crosby, you got Mikko Rantanen, who's your client as well. These elite players that are entering the final year of their deal. Edmonton's such a different animal because if Draisaitl's not signed going into the year, I mean, it's an absolute circus. I mean, you almost have to get out in front of it. But when you see guys like Matthew Tkachuk, for example, who wasn't going to be unrestricted, but still, like, he was able to negotiate a sign and trade. You don't see too many of those. Are the options there in reality for an elite player like this? Like, could many teams structure a contract? Do they have the cap space to structure this type of deal?
There would be some, for sure. Is there going to be 10? No.
Yeah.
Right. Is there going to be 5? Certainly. Right. And teams, when a player like this comes on the market, they'll clear out if they can. Right. Or if they knew. The nuance in hockey is players have re-signed. Right. That's what you have with Matthew. Calgary wasn't going to run that risk. They wanted to maximize some return for him. Mm-hmm. If you get to the trading deadline, there's 40 days left in the season. There's no value there's no matching value. And for an elite player, there is no matching value. We have 32 teams. In the best case scenario, right, the matching value is maybe there, right? But with 32 teams, you don't even have the possibility of when Wayne was traded from Edmonton to LA, there was a basket of players that came back. They won the Stanley Cup the next year, right? Mm-hmm. Now they still had all the component pieces, but for that significant piece. So you can't, that's just not a possibility now. So teams are motivated to sign these guys. And as everybody signs their players, you're right, there are fewer spots where someone is naked and they just say, hey, I need somebody. There's not going to be. And that team is probably a team that has burned it down and now they're rebuilding. And an elite player, if he wants to win, you're going to go there. So it's not as open as you'd think, but it really does come down to a player like Leon, who's drafted by Edmonton, and in hockey, the team that drafts you, I mean, you kind of take that to your grave, and some, even if you played on 3 or 4 of them, that it's significant. And in terms of the affiliation. Now, on top of that, they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. There's light at the end of the tunnel, right? And he's got, he and Connor are close friends, and there's that component to it. And they're treated very well in Edmonton. It's short of the winter. It's not a bad place to play.
No, I can imagine that they're treated pretty well for sure. And I also would think, listen, it's human nature. They're friends. I don't know how important. I don't want to speak for you guys, but you can't control what Connor McDavid does. But I would feel like your sense is these two are going to have an opportunity to do something special together in Edmonton for a long time.
Well, yes, you're accurate, and people are surmising that. Now, a year is a long time, right? So there's no part of our conversation, internally was just that. What if? What are the possibilities? And it's not infinite, right? You run through the 3 or 4 that he re-ups long term. It's a short term. He doesn't re-up. Where does that leave everything, right? And you find peace with that, and you go forward. And I don't know what their conversations are. I never ask, and I don't want him to. I'll raise the issue, and he is sensitized and understanding of it. He can go and figure that out on his own.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But you know what? Either way, Leon will be a very happy man, regardless. He's got 112 reasons to be happy. He's taken care of.
Yeah, it's a significant commitment from the Oilers. It's a significant commitment by Leon. This will be his 11th year in the organization, wow. And if he plays another 8, that's not many can go that long with in the league, let alone with one team.
Yeah. And,
he set himself up for that, right? Now, what happens over the next 9 years, time will tell. But right now he's, he had more than a year to think about it. We've wrestled with it, and, we've come to a decision, and you move on. So I guess back to your first question, for me, it's a lot more clinical than playing in the Chicago Stadium in the playoffs.
That's funny. And you look at the last 10 years in the league. I mean, it's been McDavid, Draisaitl, Kucherov, in whatever order. Those have been the three players who have, over a 10-year span. I mean, obviously you bring in Austin Matthews with his goal scoring and Cale Makar. There's some great players. Rantanen's another one of your guys. Is this? You have any update with for us in terms of what's going on with his negotiations? Are you there yet? Is that something you'd like to get done before the season?
No, it's we're talking to them. I mean, again, another significant player, and we'll just let that unfold. But everybody treats this a little bit differently. When I say everybody, ownership, there are different owners, and different motivations. And there's, I think, what we're going to see, this is the speculation, is the salary cap based on last year's revenue. The revenue projection, the whisper number out of New York, will suggest that in 2 years the cap is $100 million plus. And, the midpoint, for that to happen is going to be, in the 90s. And not everybody's going to spend to that. We have a lot of teams that are spending up against the cap because it is artificially low. It's set where it was going into the 2019-20 season a long time ago, right, in the world of sports. And, it's essentially sat there until this year. It's now crept up to 88, right. But there's still $7 to $10 million of slack in where the salary cap should be. So when it gets to $100 billion, I think we will have a separation like you have in baseball. How that plays out, I fully expect that the teams that spend the most money will not always win, because it's difficult to winning is difficult, right? I mean, there's
not guaranteed. If you spend,
it's not guaranteed. You get the wrong injury at the wrong time. Somebody makes a trade, right? When they don't really expand their cap, like we saw with Las Vegas last couple of years. The right guy gets hurt late in the season. Now you get to the end of past the trade deadline, and you're not spending, right? And your cap is you're still cap compliant, but the total value of the players would suggest that you're spending $95 million. You're not anywhere near that, right? Mm-hmm. So because you're getting a $9 million player for 40 days, not for 185 days. So when that can upend, you could lose in the second round. Right? We see it in every sport, right? It's very difficult to dominate, to have a team like when I started my pro career, Montreal won 4 times, the Islanders won 4 times, Edmonton won 4 out of 5. There wasn't a lot of oxygen for anybody else. I think in those days we haven't seen, and part of it is we have now 32 teams. It's just much harder to put that type of team together.
Yeah, way more balanced right now. But you're right; it could easily separate. As the cap continues to grow. Hey, 2 more things, and I'll let you go. You just mentioned every owner is different. I mean, you've negotiated extensions with Doug Armstrong here in St. Louis. They don't typically negotiate deals that include bonus money. Like, how important is that to you? Would that be an issue? I mean, the contract with Leon is so, heavily signing bonus money included. Is how important is that to a player? And would that be an issue, you think, moving forward, if you had to negotiate a deal without signing bonuses?
Well, the signing bonus is, it essentially guarantees the contract, because you can't buy it out. You can't. You don't lose it to a work stoppage. Right. So it's the type of thing that not every team does it. Not every player, even the elite players, have it. The key component for me on this signing, Leon Draisaitl is not getting bought out of his contract at any time in over the term of that contract. That's not the issue. I don't believe that I believe it's the wrong word. My sense is that the NHLPA and the NHL will come to an extension. The business is doing well. I think it would be a mistake to create a situation where there's a lockout.
Of course.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
The signing bonus is essentially it's the upfront payment. It's additional value to the contract. It's a way of creating value to the contract without adding to the cap. Because the player has the money earlier, just a time value of money, which could be significant. I expect it to be significant.
Okay. Interesting. And the last thing for you, I think Leon was asked this yesterday. I didn't hear the question, but I heard people reacting to the question. Some were critical of it, but I think he was asked about his salary. Will that prevent the team from being able to build the necessary players around him to win? And they include, they got to have McDavid's contract coming up. He's probably going to be making more than Draisaitl. So how would you answer that? How do you look at it? Is that even a concern of yours?
No, I mean, first of all, it's not a probably on McDavid. It's a definite. He'll definitely be making more.
Yeah.
But I think that, just where the business is, again, we're not guessing where the revenue is going to go. We built this off of today's revenue, last year's revenue, which will be less than next year's revenue. In fact, in short of the 2008 financial crisis and the 2020 pandemic, the hockey-related revenue in the NHL hockey-related revenue has increased every year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason, there's nothing, and that was part of our position, is there's nothing to suggest that it's going to go backwards. So based on what we know today, the cap's $100 million, 102. If it goes up, we don't have a jersey program that's universal, throughout the league, or a helmet pad. The sponsorship, that piece of the marketing of the NHL is increasing significantly. Regional sports now, they'll figure that out. We're confident that this contract will be, it's going to has no effect this year.
Yeah.
Right. There'll be a 1-year strain with the Oilers. Are going to have to work hard through the 25-26 season. But I fully expect that the salary cap will be, because it should be, unless they change the formula, and I have no idea why the PA would change the formula on this, the salary cap will be $100+ million for the 26-27 season. Has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So from that standpoint, I think they'll be fine. I think that you'll start to see a separation. The elite players will, continue to pick up most of the increase. Mm-hmm. But there'll be some, in other teams, St. Louis has their marquee guys. They're already under contract through that term. And,
right.
I don't think that the Oilers will have, I think that there's, the player availability, everybody signed. If you don't have them, if you're not developing them internally, I don't know if the free agent market, because players have been signed, mm-hmm. Is going to be that significant. But from a salary cap standpoint, I think they'll be. My expectation is they'll be fine.
All right, good stuff, Mike. Listen, I appreciate it, and I've seen your guy Jordan Bennington a couple times this offseason. He looks great. So,
well, he's a dad. That's added motivation. Right. You can handle, people booing you in the stands. You just can't handle your kid doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping you'd wait till next offseason to try to sign Leon Draisaitl, and then maybe the Blues could sign Draisaitl to an offer sheet or something like that. And then maybe...
it'd just be a flat out UFA deal at that point. But that would have been.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. That was, we'll see one of these days.
Sign him as a UFA. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Good stuff, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, Andy. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. We'll see you soon. You got it. That's Mike Liut, Blues Hall of Famer. Had an unbelievable career. You go back and look at his numbers in the 1980s. This guy flat out got it done. That interview brought to you by Blue Note Roofing. Again, check it out today. Give him a call, 314-920-5713. 314-920-5713. They do everything. Call Dave Novak and call him today. Roofing, siding, fascia, soffit, gutters. He'll talk hockey with you all day long. 314 Sports Cards. Again, Devin Sant, go in and see his great shop today, 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. Arco Construction, taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. They built that beautiful ice rink over there in Maryland Heights, the 4-sheet facility where the Blues practice. Incredible facility. One of the nicest you'll find in the region, without question. They built that beautiful 2-sheet facility out there in Chesterfield. Could be my favorite rink in St. Louis. I love the Maryville University ice rink. Very easy to get in and out of. Love it there. Every rink is different, but it always has that Arco touch on it. Jeff Cook, John Comlos, great people. They bring the fun to St. Louis. They built Topgolf. They built Putt Shack as well. So again, Arco Construction. They are taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. And if you're looking to build a rink anywhere in the country, hit me up. I'll get you in contact with the necessary people over at Arco Construction. Nobody does ice rinks like Arco. All right, we'll step aside. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap things up on this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Again, go support your local First Community. FirstCommunity.com. See all the great things they have to offer. We'll come back and wrap things up. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mike Liut. I guess I don't need these anymore. Hockey season's right around the corner. Can't wait for that rookie tournament here in St. Louis. And again, let me make one thing clear with Torrey Krug. I mean, I feel terrible that from a health standpoint that it's preventing him from being able to play as well. And the fact that he's going to have surgery, we wish him the best in his recovery. And we're going to do our best to get him on here and hopefully have a conversation with him sometime soon. I've been in touch with them and just hoping to eventually make that happen. Because I know a lot of you would love to hear from Torrey Krug for sure. Doug Armstrong, man, we just had an incredible conversation with one of the best GMs in the National Hockey League. I love interviewing Armies. It was one of my favorite interviews in hockey, and Cam and I have pretty much had everybody on to this point, although there's still a lot of people that we haven't had on that we hope to get on with us very, very soon. But the Cam and Strick podcast just dropped Doug Armstrong this week. Check that out. We had a great reaction from Matthew Tkachuk the week before. An incredible interview coming up next week, too. I'm going to hold on to that in terms of who we had on yesterday, but I think you'll enjoy that interview as well. But check out Doug Armstrong anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Great conversation with Army. And again, we always appreciate Army for joining us here on the Cam and Strick podcast, which we do from the Half Coast Studios as well, which is where we are today here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Again, firstcommunity.com. Lots of loan options out there. Good news about the mortgage rates. The Federal Reserve is expected to lower rates in the near future, which means home loan rates are expected to go down for a change instead of going up. How nice is that? They continue to go up. Now they're going to go down. Take advantage of that. Get a home loan and get it from First Community. They have a loan for everyone. For buying for your first time, or you know someone who is, look no further than First Community, a first-time home buyer. You can do it with no down payment, no closing costs, and no private mortgage insurance. Are you kidding me? No down payment, no closing costs, and no PMI. They also offer the affordable alternative 5-year adjustable rate mortgage that has a lower rate and a 30-year term to keep your payment more affordable if you want to go in that direction. So check it out. First Community. We love everything they do for us and everything they do to support hockey. Dirt Cheap Fun, 4 Hands Brewing Company. Again, that mango lemonade hard seltzer available back on the shelves on September 24th. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mike Liut, talking a little Leon Draisaitl. We've been heavy Oilers the last couple of weeks with everything going on. So again, what's up, Edmonton? Hope you're enjoying the podcast as well. Love having so many of you watching and interacting with me too, man. It's been great. So hope everyone has a great weekend. Keep your head up and your stick on the ice. Always remember that. And we'll do it again next week for another edition of Hockey Sense. Have a great weekend, everybody.